high school debate championship on this August morning, in this August house, on this November day. Anyways, basically, what we're going to be talking about in this debate is whether China is or is not a threat to the US. We're going to be debating this on a principle level. We're also going to be debating this from the United States perspective. However, before I get into my substantive matter, let's go into the background on what we're going to be talking about. China, since the 1970s, has shown some of the highest growth and has opened up to the world and has shown some of the highest growth in economically out of any country in the world. However, combined with this new economic prowess, they've shown a lot of new problems and threats to the rest of the world. For example, their localized production was other countries in jeopardy because of problems with job losses and losses in industry. They've got a $3.7 trillion reserve, which means that they have a high leverage over the US, and the release of this money would undermine the US dollar. They support dictatorships from Burma, Sudan, Guinea, Lauren Kunda in North Kivu, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Zimbabwe. They supply weapons to terrorist organizations such as the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and they have a high military spending in the world. Basically, they're also the only other country, listen to this, that has nuclear weapons targeted at United States cities. Okay, I'm going to be talking about the Chinese space on an economic perspective. My second speaker is going to be talking about it on a military and human rights perspective. Okay, let's look at it from a grassroots level. Firstly, traditionally, the US has been an innovator. They make and do the research, make new products, while China is a producer. They're the factory nation. However, China used to produce low-quality, competency-based goods. This is changing. The US previously produced such things as aircraft, computers, high technology, but now they're competing directly with the US. Why? Because China is catching up in terms of innovation. Because they send students such as Cynthia to ABAC so that they can learn. Basically, this means that they're catching up in terms of innovation. They're now competing directly against the US in such things as airframe, military hardware, steel and iron, superconductors, computer parts, cobalt, those type of things. However, when it's specialized like the different nations and they don't compete directly, then that's good. The only thing is that now China is competing directly. What this does though, it means that the US is losing out on jobs. This happened in Detroit, for example, in the car industry. Detroit used to be known as Detroit Rock City, now known as Detroit Broke City, because they lost out in the car industry over there. Computer hardware as well, Silicon Valley is undermined. Now also, when it comes down to defense as well, because the US, traditionally, they have relied on their powers, their ability, and their military readiness in terms of their innovation in military spending. However, because China is spending so much on military, they are now catching up and surpassing US in military innovation. What this does though is that this means on an economic level that countries, instead of going to the US for these contracts, they're sending their contract to buy stuff from China. So this means that the US industry, the US defense industry, which is privatized, is falling out. Okay, also what this means is within the US in the last year, 140,000 jobs have been sent over to China. 140,000 people in the US have lost their jobs because of the Chinese. This also means that there's a widening trade deficit. What a trade deficit means is that more money is leaving the US than comes into the US. For every $6 that's sent out of the US into China, you only get one back from China. Basically, what this is doing is making the US richer, and the US poorer and China richer. I'll catch you just after. Also, basically, this means that the US now has $1.04 trillion in debt, and this means that the US needs to borrow money when they come to things like spending for the Iraq War and for the bailouts. So basically, this means that they are a threat. Yes? China.
It's not like the world only possesses like China and the United States. For your $1 and $6 ratio, they did that because the United States is taking advantage of China's cheap labor. If China doesn't want to perform these kind of cheap labor, they simply switch to other countries.
Well, you argue for that side in your speech, what I'm saying is that it's making jobs be lost in the US. Now, basically, there's another issue over here to think about. Basically, whether they can come up here and try and tell you that the relationship between the US and China is mutually beneficial. We say no. Traditionally, US borrowed money from China to buy Chinese products. And the thing is though, the only problem with this is that it's a one-way flow. Products from China go to the US, while money from the US goes to China. Now why is this bad? Because China says so China is completely self-reliant. China produces a surplus of food and electricity, and all it needs to survive. While the US buys over 20% of its consumable goods comes from China. These are essential goods such as baby food, medicines, ammunition even. And basically, this means that China can't build without the US. What this means though, is that the US has high leverage over China has high leverage over the US. Because, for example, if China suddenly decides that they want to cut off supply to the US, then that will damage the US much more than China does. So basically, also this means that the US can't influence China in decision making. For example, in the counterfeit goods industry, 90% of the world's GDP is made up from counterfeit goods. This mostly comes from China. And basically what this means is that the US is losing out on this innovation that it puts so much money into producing and innovating and making these products, while China just counterfeits and uses this for their own benefits. Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit now about the issue of taking the yuan onto the basket currency. Now basically the yuan, the Chinese currency, is taken onto the basket of currencies, basket of 5 biggest currencies in the world. So what it means though, is that as the value of these baskets rise, then so will the yuan. The value of the yuan will rise as well. As the value of these currencies drop, then so will the yuan. Now this is good for such things as emerging markets where they're unstable, because it will create stability in such places like Thailand until about 10 years ago. You guys came onto the US dollar as well. However, what this means though, is that if there are 4 other currencies, or one other currency drops in value, then so will the yuan. Why is it bad for the US? Because if the US still has the value of the dollar at the same rate, and then the yuan, the value of the yuan drops, then where does trade go? Where do people send contracts? Contracts get sent out to China instead of the US. Therefore, the US will lose out on this trade. Quickly, I'm going to be talking about the last issue with stock markets. China only recently opened up their stock market and trade. So that means that now because of China and everything's Chinese, then US English speakers can't trade in the Chinese stock market as much as US is trading in the Chinese. What this means though, is that China has a disproportionate stake and amount of ownership in US firms as opposed to US ownership in Chinese firms. They've got ownership in essential industries such as electricity, water, and banking. This is bad because they have more leverage. I told you now that China is a threat to the US. Why? Because of the economic grassroots level, they're losing jobs. Their ownership is being transferred to the Chinese people. And basically, then also there's the military trade and how nuclear weapons are trading on US citizens, so just don't forget about that. Thank you very much.